Hello YouTube. Today I'm going to be replacing the alternator on a '05 Hyundai Tucson V6. I believe it's 2.7 liters or something like that. I'm actually going to be running it backwards on you because I was trying to find a video to kind of help me get it out, and there was not any good videos, so I'm going to make one for you. First thing I'm doing right now is, of course, charging my battery. I want to make sure that my battery's fully charged before I get ready to crank the car up. So the next step will begin shortly. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of walk you through it real quick. The easiest way to get this alternator out is to actually remove your passenger side tire and the plastic cover that goes right in here, and I'll show you those steps as I'm putting everything back together. The alternator actually sits right there in that spot, and the hardest thing that I had to do was actually to remove a bolt that goes right there in that little U-shaped bracket. Now most alternators don't sit in a U-shaped bracket. It's actually a round hole where the bolt goes through it. This one actually sits on top. Here's the bolt, and this one just kind of slides right in. Most alternators are not U-shaped. They actually have a hole and you got to slide the bolt through it. Now this one here, as you can see, when the alternator was installed, I couldn't see why the bolt wouldn't come out of the hole, because of course I'm pushing it to try to get it out of the way, and it wouldn't, because it was hitting this bracket right here, which is in the back side of it, which holds some of your suspension and driving axle and all that stuff. So I was a little confused why the bolt wouldn't come out. And of course I could see the back of the head, which as you can see is flat, and it was hitting right up against that metal bracket there. So I was actually going to remove that bracket to get it out of the way and get this right here, this strut, out of the way. Not strut, I'm sorry. This arm for your steering arm right here. I was going to remove this, and to do all that you would actually have to remove this center bolt right here, which I actually tried, but it's a '05 vehicle. It has probably never came off, and it's pretty much gonna have to come out of there with a lot of force and maybe even some heat to kind of loosen those metals off. So we'll get started on putting this thing back in here, and basically to take it off you'll just do the steps that I'm getting ready to show you backwards. There's two cables that go attached to the alternator. Let's see if I can see. Yeah. Right there with the orange right in the middle. This one here. This is the actual electrical connector for the back of the alternator, and it has a clamp right here that you have to push down on to get it and pull out. It's actually very difficult unless you have very small hands that you can reach in between all of this stuff in here to get that out of there. The other cable is hanging right here. This is the cable for the battery itself. Of course it has a rubber cover that goes over the top of it once the cable is installed with a bolt on top, and I'll show you where that cable goes on the alternator. So as you can see, it's very cramped. One of the worst alternators I've ever had to take apart or to actually remove from a vehicle. I told the person it'd probably take me 20-30 minutes to remove this thing, and it actually took me a couple of hours, just from my experience with alternators. Here is the new rebuilt alternator. As you can see, it looks brand spanking new. Believe it or not, this is the same alternator that was in here when I took out This is the same one that I took out. There's a local shop near me that was able to rebuild it for me, and it cost me a third of what a brand new alternator would cost. This alternator here, any auto parts store is almost $300 and some. Even a new rebuild was about $150 to $175. It took me about 20-minute drive to take this to the local shop and have it rebuilt, and this is basically the same thing you get when you buy a rebuilt alternator. It has a 1-year warranty. I trust the guys that did it. I'll recommend them to anybody. So we'll see. We're gonna go ahead and start this installation. As you can see, it only cost me $90, so it was a third of the price of a brand new and a few hours worth of work. So we'll go ahead and proceed with the installation. First thing we're going to try to do is get this monster inside this hole in here somehow, some way. The easiest way was towards the front of the vehicle, to go through this hole right here and go in through there. So I'm gonna try to get that in video. If I don't, I apologize. After I get it in the hole, the first thing I'm gonna do is hook up that one cable with the rubber on it first, because after I hook that onto the alternator, which it goes right here, it goes right here in this spot with this nut, it'll slide in there, and as you can see, there's cuts, these two little cuts right here. This one on this side and the one over here by my thumb. That cable has to slide in there, and then the actual wire from the cable has to come out of either end of this way or that way. So the cable can't come out this way to go on to the rest of to where it connects to. And then of course the other wires go in here, the electrical connector itself. When you get to do this, you'll see how difficult it is to get this thing out of there when you have minimal movement. So you have to have a pretty good grip to grab that wire, push the button, and pull it back. I actually had to push the button with one hand, and then I got me a long screwdriver from underneath the vehicle and kind of push and pried on it as I was pushing the button until it finally came out. Like I said, this is a 13-year-old vehicle right now, almost 14 years old. Well, it is 14 years old. And this is the original alternator, so those connectors have been there for quite a while. So it took a few minutes to get them loose. Alright, so the first thing you want to do, of course, is jack up your car. Be safe, secure. As you can see, I've got a hydraulic jack, I've got the actual scissor jack, and I've got a tower underneath it, just to be on the safe side. The reason for the hydraulic jack is because this arm here, since this is an all-wheel drive vehicle, it has independent suspension, so this leg itself here will fall down, up and down, as I release it. If I take the hydraulic jack from under there, this rotor and where the tire, where the tire hole, tire assembly goes, will actually drop down on me, and I needed the space so I could move my hands and my arms around this vehicle. So you'll want to have something propping this up, plus it keeps your strut from getting completely extended, and hopefully nothing will fall apart as far as your steering and your suspension goes. So keep this elevated, keep this part right here elevated with a jack, and then of course the other two are for actually jacking the vehicle up and supporting it while I'm under it. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so first thing I want to do, of course, the alternator. Let me try to get a better view here. Okay, I think that's a little better. First thing I want to do is try to cram this alternator through here and get it into that hole right there. very tight fit to get this thing in there. You may have to turn it a few times to get the right combination to get it to go on in there. First of all, let me get the bolt in here. I'm gonna go ahead and put the bolt on the bottom of here so I don't have to fight later trying to get it in there. Okay. This is going to be the hardest part right here. Is getting this bad boy back in here somehow. You see, there's so many things in the way. There's not a science to how to get this thing in here. You just gotta kind of maneuver it into the hole and into there. I would just kind of skip this because I won't waste your time looking at me struggling with it, but you're gonna struggle with it too. So just find a way to get it in there.